Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Prabhupada Ki Anantita Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sikha Hoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kundarada Kundagiri Govardhana Ki Rajabhumi Vrindavan Dama Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dama Ki Bhaktivedanta Manor Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Mahaparana Ki. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, text 14. We're going to read text 44 and 45, which has no purport. And so I'll be reading text 46 and we'll chant that sloka. Kashyapu vacha krita sokanutapena. I'll just chant this because you can't see the verse, I guess. Oh, you have it there? Sadhya pratyavamasanat Bhagavat Yuru Manakcha Bhave Mayupi Chadarat Putrasyaiva cha putranam bhavitekas satamala Gashyanti yad yasa sudam Bhagavat yasasa samam. Translation. The learned Kashyapa said, because of your lamentation, penitence and proper deliberation, and also because of your unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and your adoration for Lord Shiva and me, one of the sons of Prahlad, Prahlad of your son Hiranyakashipu will be an approved devotee of the Lord, and his fame will be broadcast equally with that of the Personality of Godhead. Text 46. Yogehe metva duvanam Bhava yishyanti sadava Niveradbi atmanam Yakchilam anuvartitum Yogehemeva durvanam Bhava yishyanti sadava Niveradbi atmanam Yakchilam anuvartitam Yogehemeva durvanam Bhava yishyanti sadava Niveradipi atmanam Yakchilam anuvartitam. Jai Shri Radhika Kulananda Sitaram Lakshmana Hanuman Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki. Yoge meva durvanam Bhava yishyanti sadava Sadava Niveradivi atmanam Yakchilam anuvartitam. Metta Jesus. Yoge mida durvanam Bhava yishyanti sadava Viradbhavimatmanam Yakchilam anuvartitam. Yogehemeva durvanam Bhavisyanti sadava Viradbhavimatmanam Yakchilam anuvartitam. Yoga, by the rectifying processes. Hema, gold. Eva, like. Durvanam, inferior quality. Bhavayishyanti, will purify. Sadhava, saintly persons. Nivare adibi, by practice of freedom from animosity. Atmanam, the self. Yat, whose. Shilam, character. Anuvartitam, to follow in the footsteps. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In order to follow in the footsteps, saintly persons will try to emulate his character by practicing freedom from animosity, just as the purifying processes rectify gold of inferior quality. Purport. Yoga practice, the practice of purifying one's existential identity, is based mainly on self-control. Without self-control, one cannot practice freedom from animosity. In the conditional state, every living being is envious of another living being, but in the liberated state, there is an absence of animosity. Prahlad Maharaj was tortured by his father in so many ways, yet after the death of his father, he prayed for his father's liberation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He did not ask any benediction that he might have asked, but he prayed that his atheistic father might be liberated. He never cursed any of the persons who engaged in torturing him at the instigation of his father. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasma Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatanti Kam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Samsajivam Saradvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrisabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. And before I begin, I would just like to seek the blessings of all the assembled devotees and those that I also can't see online. It's nice to see some familiar old faces. Premanava Prabhu used to be my Sankirtan leader when I used to be brahmachari here at the manor many moons ago. And Prayojana Prabhu, who when I used to be, when Prayojana joined, Prayojana had the misfortune of suffering me as his Bhakta leader for sometimes. So. Anyway, it's very, very nice to be here, back here again, giving classes. It's been many moons since I sat and gave a Bhagavatam class, so just seeking all of your blessings. I've thought about some things related to this verse, but without the mercy of Krishna, Guru, and the Vaishnavas, we're a dumb man. We can't speak anything. Okay, so just read the translation once again. In order to follow in the footsteps, saintly persons will try to emulate his character by practicing freedom from animosity, just as the purifying processes rectify gold of inferior quality. So we've been in this chapter of the Bhagavatam for a while, this chapter of the pregnancy of Diti, and we've been hearing a lot about this pastime And perhaps for many of us it adds some freshness in the mind. Those devotees made this animation of the Nrsimhadev pastime. Has everybody watched this by now? Has anybody not seen it? So it's worth seeing because they stayed true to the story. And although it's kind of a modern animation, it's good. It brings it to life, and it brings the pastime fresh in the mind. So in the purport here, Srila Prabhupada is talking about, every line of this purport is somewhat profound. The first thing Srila Prabhupada says is yoga practice, the process of purifying one's existential identity. So, generally when we think about yoga, it's not the first thing we would think or say that what yoga means, to purify one's existential identity. And Prabhupada goes on to say it's based mainly on self-control, all of yoga. So if we think about yoga in terms of how Patanjali spelled it out in the Yoga Sutras, it begins with the yamas and niyamas. So these are about how we live our lives. They're ethical principles and restraints that we follow. You've got ahimsa, non-violence, satya means truthfulness, asteya, non-stealing, brahmacharya, following celibacy, aparigraha means non-stealing, and then the personal observances, the socha, to be clean, santosh, to have contentment, tapas, to practice austerity, swadhyaya, which means self-study, and ishvara pranidhan, which is surrender to the divine. So this is the basic foundation of any general kind of yoga practice. But in Krishna consciousness, we're also practicing yoga. We're practicing Bhakti yoga. It's a little different because in Ashtanga yoga, it's not just self-control, but it's self-effort. One's trying to follow a spiritual discipline, and it goes from the yama, niyama, it goes to practicing asana, doing pranayama, breathing practices, and it's pratyahara, which is withdrawing all of the senses inwards, and the whole idea of that is all of the sensual energy that goes outside. You're drawing it into the body, and then you're trying to keep your energy within, and then draw that energy up, the kundalini energy up through your body. Srila Prabhupada explains it's a very, very difficult practice to do in this day and age, the Ashtanga yoga practice. Personally, when I was seeking life, I somewhat seeking spiritual life. I guess it is seeking life, really. Without spiritual life, we're pretty dead. So I was seeking spiritual life, and I somewhat fancied myself as this type of yogi. And I was seeking a spiritual path to follow. When I came across Krishna consciousness, it wasn't from from my external point of view, it wasn't something that was instantly attractive to me. It didn't appeal to me. And maybe the notion of being some yogi in the Himalayas was a more romantic notion of what my spiritual life would be. However, when I did open my heart to read Srila Prabhupada's words, it really struck a chord deep in my heart, and I really felt within that this is my path. And there was, I wasn't in a hurry to come and join the ashram, this is pre-internet era. Maybe these days, when you're seeking spiritual life, it's gone out of fashion a little bit. Maybe you don't feel like you need to join the ashram to take up a spiritual life. But there was some resistance there for me anyway. Let's say it's like really not what I wanted to do, become a Hare Krishna. In my eyes, it wasn't a cool thing. But the more and more I read Srila Prabhupada's books, the more and more I became convinced. So part of the way Srila Prabhupada sold it to us is he said that Bhakti Yoga is a easier process than the Ashtanga Yoga process. Over the course of time, I've come to realize there's no easy spiritual path. In truth and in reality, there isn't an easy spiritual path. Spiritual life is not easy. But you can say, in comparison to Ashtanga Yoga, where it's based on self-effort, the practice of yogi Bhakti Yoga is the path of grace. We're not depending on our self-effort. We're depending on connecting ourselves in parampara, and that the descent of grace comes. And in that way, our spiritual connection and our spiritual realization comes through grace. All the efforts that we do in our practice in Krishna consciousness is only to try to align ourselves so that we can receive that grace. And when it's given, that's only up to Krishna. We put the effort in, but we don't depend on our effort. We're completely dependent on Krishna's mercy and Krishna's grace. However, Srila Prabhupada said that any yoga practice is based mainly on self-control. So I wanted to think, this sparked for me a few thoughts about what self-control is in the life of a devotee, and I thought we might fill this out amongst. We've got lots of intelligent people here. Just wanted to give you, any of you, an opportunity to share what you think about when we think about self-control in the life of a devotee. What does it mean to you? Anybody? Got a mic here if anybody's awake this morning with ideas. It's one way to kind of keep everyone awake, keep your audience participation. Anybody have any ideas? Otherwise, I'm going to share mine.
Engaging your senses and
Excellent.
engaging your senses.
Thank you. Yes, so that's one of the main definitions of bhakti. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. That bhakti, Krishna consciousness, means engaging the service. I'm going to excuse myself for the lack of sleep I've had. Hopefully, again, with your grace, the words will come out the right way. So, engaging the senses in serving the master of the senses. That's a basic definition of Krishna consciousness. And again, that turns our world, where we're self-centered, upside down, on its head. But speaking from my own experience, after what's now all of a sudden 30 years has passed since as a young, perhaps somewhat naive, what they call it in the beginning, the utsaha mai, the artificial enthusiasm that you take up Krishna consciousness with, and perhaps in that young naivety somewhere in myself, I thought, I'm gonna be transcendental in 6 months after joining the ashram, or something like this. Now in hindsight, again after 30 years, we see that the process, it's not easy, but what you've mentioned is a big part of it, that we have this dis-ease. We think that happiness will be serving our senses, and even though we know this, we can say this sloka, but it's about living this and actually becoming convinced that happiness lies in serving the master of the senses, and when I serve the master of the senses, I'm automatically satisfied myself. Any other one? Anybody else? Prabhu?
It's also about controlling the speech and also controlling our thoughts, because we tend to speak sometimes which we don't want to. So we have to be careful on what we are speaking and thinking.
Thank you very much. Very nice point, Prabhuji. So that's also one that came to mind for me, and we've got the first sloka of the Nectar of Instruction, Vatsho Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udara Pasta Vegam, Etan Vegan Yo Visaheta Dira Savam Apimam Prithvim Sasishat. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, the belly, and the genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So, there we have it, very first verse of Nectar of Instruction. And so this is self-control in the life of a devotee, and as Srila Rupa Goswami's explained here, that if we have that degree of self-control, we can control all of the urges, we're qualified to make disciples all over the world. So I'm not meaning that to be a controversial statement in the current climate, but this is what Srila Rupa Goswami has said. And again, if we go on to look a little more into Nectar of Instruction, the next two verses are about accepting what's favourable for Krishna consciousness and rejecting what's unfavourable for Krishna consciousness. Again, all of that is self-control. It's a matter of self-control. So there is a lot of self-control, where we look at the path of Bhakti Yoga. It's yoga, it's discipline. But it's discipline on the path to just receiving the grace of Krishna. And maybe it might be nice just to, I've got these slokas here as well in terms of text it explains that one's devotional service is spoiled when we become too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavouring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations, working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. So those are all the unfavourable things. And the 6 principles favourable are being enthusiastic, endeavouring with confidence, being patient, acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting and remembering Krishna, abandoning the association of non-devotees, and following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So in the next part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that in the conditioned state, every living being is envious of another living being, but in the liberated state, there is an absence of animosity. So if we think about this word, animosity, means hostility, resentment, bitterness, ill will, grudge, like a deep-seated dislike of somebody. Revenge. Yeah, because if we really think about an envious person and the nature of envious people in the material world, I don't know if that's an example Srila Prabhupada gave, but maybe perhaps you've seen when you have crabs that are caught in a pot, in a cage. If one crab tries to crawl out, the other crab will grab hold of its legs and pull it down. So that's the nature of the material world. Yesterday when Adi Guru was giving class, the very one-line purport was about the nature of the dog, and it wasn't shedding the dog in a very nice light, although we looked at dogs also have some good qualities, but a dog likes to be top dog, then he's happy. And this is also nature of material world, that everybody wants to be top dog, and there's always somebody who's a little better, so then they become envious of that person. Hopefully, in the society of devotees, we find ourselves in a different situation where ideally, in the society of devotees, everyone is striving to be servant of the servant. And, rather than being envious of each other, we can appreciate the good qualities of each other. And there's so much to appreciate in Krishna consciousness, actually, and we're so fortunate that there's so many wonderful, very inspiring devotees. And although we might not be so great ourselves, at least we can appreciate those who are great. And even if we just do that, then simply, by our service attitude in many ways, and again, we might not be able to even do so much in terms of service, but if in our attitude we're appreciative of those that are, we see the good qualities, we appreciate those things, and we imbibe those good qualities in ourselves, we hopefully develop those qualities. And just in that way, just by having that attitude, the service attitude is the thing that's pleasing to Krishna. So also, first, in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shri Radha Gokulananda, Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, Shri Gauranitai ki. Bit early, Jay. So, in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains Dharma Projita Kaitavo Tra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. So, Nirmatsaranam Satam, the Satam, the devotees that are Nirmatsaram, pure in heart. So, this is what in the very beginning Srimad Bhagavatam is explaining, that's who the Srimad Bhagavatam is for, those devotees that are pure in heart. None envious. And again, if we think there's those beautiful verses in Bhagavad Gita, in the 12th chapter, Krishna explains the kind of devotee that is dear to him. The word advesta means none envious. So Krishna says, Advesta Sava Bhutanam Maitra Karuna Evacha Nimamo Nirahankara Samaduka Sukashami Santusta Satatam Yogi Yatatma Durita Nishchaya Maya Pitamano Buddhi Yomat Bhakta Sami Priya. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine, it is very dear to me. And again, if we think a bit more about the qualities of a devotee, there's that verse in the Bhagavatam, very famous verse, Tatiksava Karunika Surida Sarvadehinam Ajata Satrava Santa Sadava Sadhubhusana. So the Sadhubhusana, the qualities of a sadhu, the symptoms of a sadhu. Firstly, he's tolerant, he's merciful, friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he abides by the scriptures, and all of his characters are sublime. So these are the symptoms of a sadhu. And this is what we're at least aspiring to become as devotees. A character that is tolerant of others and displays all these kinds of qualities. There's no room for envy. So another thing I thought about that is in Krishna book, chapter 89. There's one, this is where Srila Prabhupada explains the pastime of when Bhrigu Muni, it's explained, we all know the pastime. Bhrigu Muni's with the sages on the bank of the Saraswati, and they're having a discussion, and they're thinking about who is the greatest amongst the three controllers of the universe, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. So the sages decide that Bhrigu Muni's got to go and discover this. So first of all, Bhrigu Muni goes to Brahma Loka, and he sees his father, and rather than offering respects, he he neglects to offer his father respect. And straight away Lord Brahma's feeling really angry about this. This is my son and he's not even offering me respect. And he's about to curse Bhrigu Muni, but he somehow or another manages to restrain himself. Next, Bhrigu Muni goes to see Lord Shiva, Mount Kailash. It's explained that Lord Shiva is the brother of Bhrigu Muni, but when he goes there, Lord Shiva's very pleased to see him as his brother. But Bhrigu Muni is like, oh, you get away from me, Shiva. You're covered in ashes, and don't touch me. And Lord Shiva is known as Asutosh, so he's very easily pleased. He also gets angry very easily. So, his eyes became red with rage, and he's got his trident. He's ready to kill Bhrigu Muni, and only because Parvati's there, she managed to pacify him. And it's explained there that there are these three kinds of offences you can make. One is in the mind, one is by words, and then the most severe type of offence is with your body. And so when Bhrigu Muni goes to see Lord Vishnu, Vishnu Loka, he kicks him in the chest. It's the worst kind of offence you could make. But Lord Vishnu, rather than reacting, is, oh, my dear Brahmana, your feet are so soft and you must have hurt your feet, and can I massage your feet? And oh, my chest has become blessed because it's been touched by your feet. This is how Lord Vishnu's reacted. And there's one little thing that Prabhupada says there, that the one implication of that is that because of that, Lakshmi wasn't very pleased by it, and then because of that, Lakshmi has been less favourably disposed to the Brahmanas. Therefore, generally speaking, Brahmanas tend to not be so wealthy, because since this time, Lakshmi has been less favourably disposed to them. But a little further in that pastime, as Srila Prabhupada explains it, he says this line, that one's greatness has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. It's a very profound statement, and we can all think in our own life that when the provoking situation comes, and how do we react to it, And I know, at least I can own what's true for me. We have a saying that you can take the boy out of Essex, but you can't take Essex out of the boy. So, unfortunately, as much as, I can't, if we remain committed to the practice of Krishna consciousness, change will happen. But at the same time, there's elements that take time to refine. And sometimes when we're pushed, we might see a side of ourselves come out that we're not so proud of. And, it's a leveler. And this statement is a leveler if you really look at it, and you really look at yourself and see, what is our ability to tolerate the provoking situations. So a great personality they can tolerate. We've got examples like Haridas Thakur. He's been caned in 21 marketplaces, is it? He's been caned in 21 marketplaces. He's praying for forgiveness. Same thing, Jesus Christ has been crucified. He's praying, forgive them, Lord. They know not what they do. And then we come to think about Prahlad as well, because this now links into today's where we are, that Kashyapa is explaining to Diti that one of her sons of her son Hiranyakashipu will be a great devotee. It's going to be Prahlad Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada's explained in the purport Prahlad Maharaj was tortured by his father in so many ways. So again, when we think about Prahlad, the kind of torture that he underwent, he's been thrown in pits of snakes, he's been stabbed with tridents, thrown in the ocean, thrown off a mountain, thrown into a fire, fed poison. In so many ways, he's undergoing torture. And if we really think about what happened with Prahlad, you could say, he's had a lot of childhood trauma. But even though he underwent these traumatic experiences, Prahlad was not actually traumatized, because Prahlad was just remembering Krishna in his heart all the time. So even though he underwent these things, it's not affected him in the same way as if we might have undergone experiences like that. He was always humble, saw every situation as an opportunity to remember Krishna. So he's forgiving his father, and he's praying to the Lord that that his father will get liberation. And he's never cursed. Again, this is what Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport. He prayed for his father's liberation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He did not ask any benediction he might have asked, but he prayed that his atheistic father might be liberated. He never cursed any of the persons who engaged in torturing him at the instigation of his father. So there's a lesson in all of this, that we cannot make proper spiritual advancement unless we're able to forgive people that offend us. That's the deeper lesson in all of this. I'm just going to skip ahead because we've run out of time. There's some other things I wanted to talk about. So this verse is relevant to mention as well. We have the verse in the Bhagavatam, Tenu kampam susamikshumano banjana ivatma kritam vipakam. What is the next one? Jiveta yo mukti padei sadaya back. So my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reaction of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances, with his heart, words and body is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So many Krishna will test us with certain situations, and certain situations that we're going to experience in our life are our karmas that we're predestined to have to experience. And if we can go through those situations gracefully, that's how we get to advance in our spiritual life. And if we failed the test one time, we needn't worry, because for sure, the next test is coming. We get over one wave, there's another one coming. So, as devotees, we have to learn to surf these waves. So I'll just end with this, that amongst the other beautiful prayers that Prahlad has offered to Nrsimhadev, apart from praying for the liberation of his father, he's also prayed, this is quite a famous verse, but it's a beautiful verse. Prayena Deva Manaya Swavimukti Kama Monyam Charanti Vijanena Paratanista Naitan Vihaya Kripanan Vimuktasya Eko Nanyam Twadasya Saranam Brahmato Napasye. My dear Lord Nrsimhadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet. So it's a very beautiful verse, and the purport is also very beautiful. Srila Prabhupada explains that the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are not at all interested in so-called meditation in the Himalayas or the forest, where one will only make a show of meditation, nor are they interested in opening many schools for yoga and meditation in the cities. Rather, every member of the Krishna consciousness movement is interested in going door to door to try to convince people about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as it is the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That is the purpose of the Hare Krishna movement. So there's more there, but in the interests of time, I'll leave it there. But that's something to leave us with as a meditation, and what brings us life in Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya explains that the Sankirtan movement, it enables us to taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. So, engaging in the processes of devotional service can give us that taste. Again, there's more taste when we're experiencing something in Krishna consciousness. It's natural that we go find our way to share it with others. Srila Prabhupada is talking about going door to door here, but there are many ways that we can share Krishna consciousness and have the attitude to share Krishna consciousness with others in any ways we can. And again, a devotee is always thinking about that, how he can benefit others, just as Prahlad has shared here. So I'll end it there. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I guess we've still got a few minutes if anyone has any reflections, any comments, questions. Is there a microphone still?
Hare Krishna, bro. Thank you. Thank you for the class, bro. I just have a question. So you mentioned about how when we practice in Krishna consciousness, there are some challenging situations where we go through some difficulties. And so how do we understand whether it's a test of Krishna or whether it's a karmic reaction we are going through in that situation? If you can just put some light on that.
Sure. So we may not understand, and my perspective is that maybe that's less important. What's more important is our attitude as aspiring devotees, that we're taking every situation, just like I shared this verse, Tattena Kampam. That is the attitude of the devotee, that every situation that arises, we're accepting it as our karma, and we're accepting it gracefully. And again, includes in the context of this, where we're being unenvious, and where the situation comes that's difficult, that we accept it gracefully. Maybe it was predestined, maybe it's the test of Krishna, but certainly the more and more as we advance in Krishna consciousness, it's like the path is, maybe we talk about in the beginning, we get this, we get a free sample of the taste of Krishna consciousness. Maybe in the beginning as well, the road's a little wider, there's more room for, Krishna makes sure, we may air, it gets more narrow. There's less room, it's described as like a razor's edge spiritual life. So, we have to just be careful and mindful. Okay. Whoever wants next. Premanava Prabhu.
Yeah, my understanding is that, because there's probably a question of it about how do we know it's our karma or it's Krishna doing it? Well, for a devotee, there's no difference. It's not like for a devotee, he has his karma, life, and then he has Krishna. For a devotee, there's only one. Whatever karma you have, Krishna will use that to purify us. So in one sense, it's your karma, and at the same time, it's Krishna as well, because we're not separate. Once you become a devotee, Krishna says, Savadam pratijamamikam saranam vajaham tvam savapapibhyo mokshasyami ma suchaha. I protect you from all types of fearful reaction or sin. And that's he's protecting us from our karma.
Thank you very much. It's a nice point, and it's understood as well that in very rare circumstances, if the particular karma we're predestined to undergo is going to be really unfavorable for our spiritual advancement, then Krishna may adjust that. But that's not what usually happens. But you're quite right. When we're coming under the shelter, a devotee is under the shelter of the Devi Prakriti, the divine energy. And once you're under the shelter of the Devi Prakriti, everything that's happening in your life is orchestrated by Krishna. We're not under the Mahamaya. Tarun Prabhu, and then I wanted you had your hand up first, but we'll get to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prabhu. From this story of Bhrigu Muni testing, we just see that only Vishnu is really free from anger fully. And then, in the same time, Lord Shiva is called best of the Vaishnavas, but he gets very easily triggered. So we are trying to control our anger, but I've seen I'm failing all the time, and I've seen others failing. It's just a matter of approach, how somebody is approaching us. In other words, which button he presses. So it's not possible. And at the same time, Shastra said, one should be free from anger, be free from anger. And it's like one of the gates to hell. So it seems to me paradox. It's not possible. But then I'm just thinking Ashutosh means easily forgiven. So I guess this is our measure of advancement, how much we change and then forgive. Like Prabhupada sometimes he was so angry that his lips would tremble, and next moment was chill out with the same person. So I don't know, is that measure of success? Because it's not possible to be free from anger.
Thank you, Prabhu. And I wish I had some better news for you from my own personal perspective as well, because I can at least very much empathise with what you're saying in terms of my own personal experience. But if we think about somebody like Prabhupada, he's able to engage anger, ideally as a devotee gets angry when there's if Krishna's been offended or another devotee's been offended, but they themselves may not be like under the influence of the rajasic energy, which brings about an uncontrolled anger. But perhaps for ourselves, that's it, that provocation comes, and out it comes. And there's a lot more I was going to say about this, because sometimes what's happening, we talked about how Prahlad's went through traumatic situations. Maybe we had some traumatic situations also. Maybe when we're getting poked, we're having a trauma response, and that's part of what's happening. And when that's happening, when we see that showing up where that might show up in our more intimate relationships, and that's something that we need to look at and address in our lives. It can be things like that, but overall I can just empathise with you that it's hard, and perhaps at least, because the same thing, we looked at envy, and perhaps for a devotee envy, because unless we're a paramahamsa, these things may come, but we don't give it any fuel. The thing may come, but we're able to quickly let it go. So that's as much as I have for you on that, Prabhuji. Thank you. Mataji, the last question, I guess time's getting late.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Just wanted to say you were my me too.
Yes, I remember.
And I hope you do more classes.
Thank you.
I just thought that the word emulate is very interesting in the verse. It means to copy.
Yeah.
So, because it's very easy for me, whether it's karma, whether it's test, I tend to think that, I'm not pure devotee, I cannot, be free from animosity, but here it says emulate this character. Just just copy, even if you don't feel it, just copy it. Just try to copy, even if, and then you gradually purification.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a very important point, and that's what's been talked about in the verse, that Prahlad, that the devotees will try to, as you say, emulate his character. So that's the purpose of meditating on these personalities, that we hear these pastimes in this way. We're associating with devotees of that caliber and that character as well, and then through that association, just by hearing that, hopefully we're imbibing some of those qualities in our heart and in our character. Hopefully we can only pray that transformation comes about. So thank you all very much. Today's Ekadasi, so hopefully we will have some opportunity to go a little bit deeper in our Krishna consciousness and our hearing and our chanting. Srila Prabhupada ki.